There have been a couple of iconic characters in the field of spy fiction, notably John le Carre's George Smiley and Mick Herron's Jackson Lamb. Both very, very different characters, but both have gripped their readership. Now, Gerald Seymour, who is a very, very well established and noted author in the field of spy fiction and crime fiction, has created a character, Jonah Merrick, who can take his place alongside Smiley and Jackson Lamb. Although he again is a rather different type of character. He works on a desk job inside the headquarters of MI5, Thames House, the security service, and is regarded by his colleagues as being rather occupying a dead-end job. He's not liked, he's not really respected, except by one of the top management assistant director, who has seen the potential in Merrick and kind of is his rabbi in the organization. So the first book in the series, The Crocodile Hunter. In this book, Jonah Merrick, who has been given a counter-terrorism task, is tracking a returning terrorist from ISIS. A very, very timely subject for a book, because all over Europe and indeed all over the world, we've had terrorists returning, having fought for the caliphate and trying to re-establish themselves back in their home countries, who are obviously a very serious threat. These are people who have had training, they've had experience, and they've been subject or perpetrators of the most horrific violence, and they're in a position to either continue the jihad back in their home countries or to indoctrinate other people. So it's a real life problem, and this book concerns itself with one such English terrorist who's gone over and is seeking to return, Cameron Gilkes, and he's a fairly formidable opponent, and he has a plan to cause a major a terrorist bomb at a military establishment. How Jonah Merrick tracks him is something of a detective story. He puts bits of a puzzle together, and even though Merrick is rather a taciturn character, a character you wouldn't particularly want to go to the pub with, he is very dogged, he has a streak of temperament, and he's very, very difficult to convince to abandon a course of action once he set his mind on it. So he leaves the headquarters and actually goes out into the field, and he's assigned a couple of armed police officers, ARV officers, a male and a female, who they think that they are running him, and he's their subordinate, but he very, very quickly makes it clear that he's in the driving seat, and he resolves the situation very, very well. Now, we find out that Merrick, one of the reasons he's highly regarded by one of the senior directors, is he has previously disarmed a suicide terrorist who had a vest, who was planning to detonate outside one of the government buildings in Whitehall, and Merrick has got alongside him and managed to disarm the vest, and he's got a gallantry medal for that. And he doesn't talk about it. It's just in his wife's underwear drawer, and he's the kind of guy who he just never talk, even to his wife. He doesn't really open himself up. It's that kind of character. So we find out that kind of thing about him. So the resolution of this book isn't particularly a surprise, knowing that about him, and it's a really good read. Then we come to the second in the series, the Foot Soldiers. So Jonah Merrick is now still got a desk job, but he's now working in counter-espionage. And the book really covers the defection or proposed defection of a Russian GRU officer who's stationed in Denmark, and he has made an approach to the British Embassy, and they want to debrief him, decide whether they can run him in place, which is the ideal, or whether they need to extract him, being contingent on what information he actually possesses. And for this debriefing to take place, they bring in a couple of armed support from SIS, who are contract guys brought in specially for this job. Now, what happens is that there's a leak. There's obviously a mole or a traitor somewhere, and the Russians have got wind of this. The GRU tried to take him out, and they have their own contract guys, kind of Wagner Group type guys, on the case. And there's an initial attack made, and fortunately it's not successful. So security's tightened up. You have the two British guys and also a detail from the Danish internal security, the PET, involved in guarding him, and how that's done is a big part of the book. Meanwhile, Jonah Merrick has been detached to work inside SIS headquarters at Vauxhall Cross to find out who the traitor is, and he is far from welcome. In fact, even at the reception at the main entrance, he's given a hard time and searched and so on, and given a cold shoulder basically within the building. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. I would think that since 9/11, the cooperation between the different parts of the British security and intelligence establishment have become a lot more collegiate, and some of the procedures for interdepartmental cooperation, I'm sure, have been much improved. However, there are old fiefdoms and jealousies and attitudes, no doubt, still remaining to an extent. So Jonah, putting up a facade of being rather bumbling, interviews each of the potential suspects, those who are in the know as regards this operation, and interviews each one of them and eliminates them one by one, leaving one suspect who, to be honest, was somebody that I had suspected from the start. However, it's still an interesting read from that point of view. And Jonah then arranges an arrest. He's in at the kill, as it were, and it doesn't go according to plan by any means, and it's quite a surprise, really, what happens. So it's quite a different book from the first one, and it's still a very, very effective read. So the third book is In at the Kill. So this book, the third book, has Jonah Merrick now working against organised crime, which was a task given to MI5 several years ago. But it's not a task that they exactly relished. Traditionally, they were set up as counter-espionage. They later went into counter-subversion and then counter-terrorism. And they were all very, very major, high-profile divisions within MI5. And that's what their record, ever since they were first set up, as the Secret Service Bureau, has been built on. Organised crime, which really was given to them after the Cold War, because it was believed that the threat from Russia had gone away. Wrong. Is something that, because they do have very, very strong links with the police, they are in a position to do some good. This story concerns the cartels in Colombia have built a semi-submersible vessel to transport a massive shipment of cocaine across to Europe. And there's a DEA officer who has directed a plan to find out about this using a source that he has a press gang basically into finding out. And so this shipment is known about and is being tracked with the terrific satellite surveillance assets that the United States possess. The destination for the shipment is Spain, Corunna, Galicia, on the coast, and the main recipients are a family who live there, and it's a matriarchal drug gang, the husband having been crippled in a previous endeavour. So the rather formidable woman is running it, and she's got a couple of sons helping her. Now there is an undercover from the UK, from the basically National Crime Agency, who has been trained to their highest level and has had experience previously going undercover for extended periods, and he has successfully got himself into the society there, and everything's relying on him. Jonah Merrick is actually pulling the strings on this one. And then the third part of it is a drug family in Liverpool who have invested in this shipment because they want to import some of the drugs from their landfall in Spain across to Great Britain. And again, this is a matriarchal family. The man of the house serving a long sentence in Walton Jail. So his wife has taken over, and she's got a couple of sons and a daughter. And one of the sons, rather like one of the Spanish sons, is a very violent character. He's the enforcer of the family. And there's a couple of Merseyside police officers, one a woman, and higher up the ranks, Chief Super, who have targeted this family. And the Chief Super, who's originally Irish, resembles a real officer in Merseyside Police who I met once when we were doing a job, a protection job. And he was very, very well known and well respected within that sphere, the intelligence and security branch. And I don't know if this character in the book's based on him, but he certainly struck a chord with me. So reading the sections on Liverpool, there were no false notes. Gerald Seymour seems to have gotten it very, very well portrayed, geography, the attitudes, the relationship between the police and the family and so on, the way the surveillance can fail, technical assets can fail and so on, the surveillance awareness of the bad guys, which can be legendary. And as I say, I thought it was done very, very well. No false notes, as I mentioned. So the whole thing, there's a lot of tension. There's a couple of characters you're not sure of what side they're on. And again, the resolution with Merrick is quite an eye-opener. It's something I wasn't really expecting. Probably the best of the books, although the plot can be a bit convoluted at parts. Like other Gerald Seymour books, it's rather downbeat. There's no, there are heroes, but people are not really acting heroically, if that makes sense. There's a couple of characters in this book that have appeared before. Aggie Burns, who works next door to Merrick in MI5. She runs A4, the surveillance teams. She has appeared before in Gerald Seymour books. And a character called Naka makes a brief appearance, and in one of the previous books he was a SIS agent handler involved in a very bloody operation. So there's a continuity in the world that Gerald Seymour has created, just as there is in the worlds of John le Carre and Mick Herron. So altogether 3 books. I'd suggest you read them in the order they're written, and I don't know if there's going to be a 4th. There's been no announcement at this time, but I'd certainly welcome one.